Hey everyone, and welcome to day one of the 12 Days of Christmas Business Growth Advent Calendar. I'm CJ Thomas, the founder of Simply Healthy Marketing, and today I am joined by a special guest, Laura Carmody of Threaded Red. Welcome, Laura.
Yay! Thank you. Hi everybody. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here, and I know that everybody is about to learn some super juicy knowledge from you. So if you haven't already, make sure you have a pen, a piece of paper, or a notebook to write in. Maybe get your laptop open and you're ready to take notes. And maybe get a nice little drink or a snack as well. Laura and I, we have our little holiday festive mocktails. Cheers.
Thank you for creating these for us.
Mm-hmm. And it was important to me to set up a healthy little platter for us today because you are going to be here talking with us about hormone balance and how we can really align our bodies and our hormones to our business and the work that we do, which I think is so important because oftentimes we are out in the world, we're go. We are, trying to follow the strategies, trying to post to social media, do all of these things that lead us to a state of burnout.
Yeah.
And it was through meeting you and learning more about my cycle and how I can live in relationship with my cycle that I was able to change the way that I show up to the work that I do. And so I'm really excited that you're here to share those tips with our communities today in case this isn't something that they're already doing. Maybe it's something that they can take with them into 2023.
Yeah, totally. And I'm so excited to be here as well, hearing the way that the cyclical wisdom has impacted your business. And of course, and I'll just share with everyone else that CJ and what she brings in terms of marketing and business strategies and growth has just dramatically impacted my business and the way that I show up. And I just love that we're able to inspire that in each other. And it's just always such a blast to work with you. So
absolutely. I love it. I love you.
Love you
so let's go ahead and just really quickly talk about Threaded Red. Can you tell us about Threaded Red and what it is that you do?
Yeah, thanks. So Threaded Red is my small business that is centered around menstrual education, empowerment, and equity. So I love to share on menstruation and especially this bridge between sacred menstruation and practical body literacy tools. So really gaining the knowledge to understand what is happening physiologically with our cycle so that we can be empowered with that information and start to build our businesses, our lives, our relationship around that wisdom of our cycle, and also integrating that with the spiritual aspects of menstruation. So learning about the ancient techniques that we can use to connect with our bodies and wombs, and applying all of that as well. So I try to bring a holistic approach to menstruation that looks at physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual factors and how all of that can just help us live a richer and more fulfilling life. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do with Threaded Red. We share that information and we share classes and trainings and interactive red tent spaces in person as well.
Absolutely, which I've had such a beautiful honor and privilege to be able to be part of, both on the back end with the marketing side and then on the front end with being a steward in some of those red tents. And I can just say from my own experience that it's amazing how much research you do to really know about what it is that you're sharing and teaching, and to just really hold space for people at whatever level they're at, wherever they are with their bodies, and just to help them really connect to this knowledge, because you and I both know that this isn't what people just learn growing up in sex ed, and it's what they should be learning.
Absolutely, 100%. I really feel like this is the menstrual education that we all have always needed, that we have always deserved, but that we never got. And it can just improve our lives in so many ways to be able to learn this, and knowledge is power. So yeah, it's amazing to kind of reflect on the ways that we've kind of grown and we've together over the years. And just a testament to continue to show up for your business over the years, the growth that can happen, and just that dedication and the accountability, the reflection. So it's
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And that was actually like a question that I wanted to speak to you about in terms of like the evolution of your business from where you started to where you are now, because I've been able to see that journey. And I think it's important to share with those of the people out there watching and listening who are maybe at a certain stage and can't really figure out or see like what the path is ahead. I think that's important to kind of give a realistic view of what that can look like. So can you share a little bit of that with us?
I'd love to. So as you know, when I first started my business, it was called Priestessing the Paradigm Shift. It was not called Threaded Red. And I just felt so genuinely called at that time. I just felt like this is the name, this is the energy that I want to call forth. I want to bring forth this energy of priestessing, holding space for people as we move through the different phases of our life, whether that be menstruation or other major rites of passage, and to hold space for the world as we transition into hopefully a more evolved and elevated state of relating as humans. And it's interesting looking back on it because it is, in a lot of ways, it's very different from what I'm doing now with Threaded Red, although there's of course many similarities in terms of menstruation and the Red 10 in particular. But it's really evolved and grown as I've grown and as I've seen the importance of having the physical aspects integrated to it, you know, along with the spiritual. And I feel like, you know, what I've really learned from that is that you have to follow that calling. Like, you have to follow that intuition and your heart, your womb, your body, your guidance speaking to you in whatever way that is. And if you follow that and you make decisions that are in alignment with your values, then you can never make a wrong decision. You're always going to be led further in the right direction, even if that means you end up taking a different path or it ends up looking different than what you imagined. That just, you know, following that inner guidance and following your desires really with your business, like understanding what your desires are and owning that and going for your dreams, they're always going to lead you in the right direction. And so I think that in many ways, the direction I was headed kind of grew out of priestessing the paradigm shift, and I became a lot more clear that I wanted to focus specifically on menstruation and the womb continuum, and wanted a name that I felt like better represented that, and Threaded Red grew from there. And yeah, I mean, just thinking about the way that it's transformed, we went from having a 10-foot by 10-foot little pop-up canopy that we would bring to festivals and share workshops and ceremonies, to now we have this like gorgeous 500 square foot red circus tent that we have, you know, a practical bleeding space in, with a sink and running water and a library of educational resources and comfortable places for people to relax and rest when they're bleeding and when they're at these events interacting with the red tent. And yeah, you just got to keep showing up, keep putting yourself out there, keep pressing your edges. Like, I wish that y'all could see behind the scenes some of the conversations that CJ and I have had about like my insecurities and my fears and my shame and my judgment come up around taking up space and being a business owner and putting myself out there. And so you've been so awesome in supporting me through all of that. You're like a business doula or midwife is the way that I feel like you're always such a project midwife for me. But yeah, you just got to keep putting yourself out there as a business owner. It's such a vulnerable process, and like, that's the juice, you know, like that's where the magic is.
Absolutely. Truly. And you know, I think that that's a really good kind of place to start to look at, like, you know, for you, at what point did you realize that in order to really listen to that call, to be able to show up when your business was asking you to expand, to be able to listen to your body and your intuition, at what point did you realize the importance of the work that you do, hormonal balance, aligning to cycles in your own relationship with your business?
I think that aspect of it was incorporated through most of my business. So what CJ's speaking to is the idea of aligning our business practices based off of what's happening in our hormonal cycle.
Yeah.
And I think that in ways that's always been a really big part of what I've wanted to do with my life and my business, at least as long as I've had threaded or Priesting the Paradigm Shift or Threaded Red. That's always been something that has been incorporated. And so I'll just give you guys just the tip of the iceberg of what that can look like. And this is just a super introductory for those of you who aren't familiar with the 4 phases of the hormonal cycle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have the menstrual phase, the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, and the luteal phase, which is also called the premenstrual phase. And we can go super in depth another time and, exactly what's happening physiologically. But we'll just stay a little bit lighter today. And so what I always like to think about is what is happening internally in my body and in my womb. And then how can I mirror that into my life, my relationships, my business? So that's what we're really going to be thinking about. All of the magic of the womb and the cycle of death and rebirth is already just happening on its own without us needing to do anything or even to be aware of it. So we want to take that wisdom and mirror it outwards. So for example, during the menstrual phase, this is a time when the blood is releasing, the uterine lining is releasing, and we are shedding. So this might be a great time to take some rest and downtime in our business. This is a great time for reflection. This is also a good time to think about, what do I need to release? Like, what is not working for me on a business level?
Mm-hmm. And just like to kind of jump in right there, I think that piece is huge because there's so many times where we get very attached to what we're creating in our business. And we can get really attached to the clients because they're bringing in certain amounts of money that we need or whatever it is. And we tend to overlook those messages that are telling us we need to let go of something.
Yes.
And then it kind of gets to a point where naturally we have to.
Yeah.
But I think that what you're speaking to is really powerful there, that sometimes we'll get those signals from our bodies.
Yeah.
And for people who don't bleed, what is that? What might that look like?
Yeah, so if you're not bleeding and you're interested in working the cyclical nature into your business, one thing that you might consider are the phases of the moon, and you can take that approach. So in that approach, the new moon would be the same as the menstrual time. So that would be a really good time for reflection, for releasing what's no longer serving. And remember too that this can be our own personal behaviors. Mm-hmm. So like, oh, I need to release working until 10 p.m. at night with my laptop open.
Right.
Yes. Or maybe it's that I am having so much self-doubt and imposter syndrome come up around running a business, and I want to release and let go of that. Mm-hmm. So if you are not cycling, you can consider the moon as a guide. And in that model, new moon is menstrual time. Full moon is ovulatory time. And you can also kind of experiment with that and see if that rings true to you. You might take a few months and kind of track your energy levels, and maybe you notice that you're more tired during the full moon and you want that to be your menstrual phase. But that's a great question, because adopting this cyclical nature of rest and action is really, really important for the long-term sustainability of our business, right? Mm-hmm. Because we are not meant to just be on all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's really important that we have the time for rest and contemplation, and then we have the time where we are genuinely inspired to go out there and do the things. So yeah, whether you have a womb, whether you menstruate or not, it's important to think about, how am I integrating that into my business flow and routine?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And with this menstrual phase, so we're there's different ways that we can kind of relate to it, whether we bleed or we don't. So there's the menstruation, which is actual physical menstruation in our body. there's the new moon, and then also the winter season, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so for any of you out there, if you're looking for any kind of like anchor to relate to these different cycles we're talking about and how you can kind of connect to what we're sharing, you've got those 3 different things to choose from. So it's happening either during the winter time or during the new moon. You might notice some things coming up, or during that physical bleed. And then we're going to cycle back around to this phase, but let's talk about the other 3 phases as well.
Yeah, and that's a great way to look at it. I love that seasonal idea, and that makes a lot of sense, especially for those of us that want to integrate our connection to the natural world into our businesses. I love that.
Exactly, absolutely.
So that's the menstrual phase. Then we have the follicular phase. So this is a time of growth. So a lot of our sex hormones are going to start building at this time, and estrogen in particular is going to rise. And while estrogen rises, the lining of the uterus is going to be growing and strengthening. And so this is a great time to be really reflecting on, where am I putting my energy? What am I building right now? And really to put into action those things where you want to be channeling your energy. So maybe that means you're writing content, you're writing emails, you're building your audience. Maybe that's a growth part of your cycle. This is also related to the season of spring. And the time in between the new and full moon, which is waxing?
The waxing.
Waxing moon. Then we have the ovulatory cycle, often associated with the full moon and with summer. So what's happening at the moment of ovulation is the egg or the ovum is going to pop out of an ovarian follicle, and there is the potential for insemination at this time. This is a time of expression. This is a time of high energy. This is a great time to put yourself out there. If you're a business owner, you might think about like, this is a time to do lives. This is a time to record video content. This is a time for your creative flow. So really thinking about your writing and maybe thinking about your branding and what you want that to look like.
So the external
And connecting with other people. It's a really great time for that. It's like outward expression, whether that's clients, collaborations, whatever that looks like.
Love it.
And then lastly, we have the luteal or the premenstrual phase, which is associated with the fall season and the waxing moon. And this,
the waning moon.
Oh, the waning moon. Right. Yes, thank you. And this is a time where our energy levels typically are starting to go down, especially the week before our cycle. Our sex hormones are all going to be going down, and we are going to start preparing for our bleed. Something else really interesting that happens here physiologically is this little thing called the corpus luteum that develops on the ovary after ovulation is going to start to reabsorb back into your ovary. And the corpus luteum just produces progesterone during the first half of your luteal phase. And so I just really like to think about that energy of going within, how the corpus luteum reabsorbs back into the ovary. So this is a time to go back into your internal world. So perhaps that means more time in your personal process, more time in reflection, things that feel really calming and nourishing. Maybe not as much the time to push your edges, but really to take stock, look at the cycle that is soon going to be ending, these past few weeks that you've gone through, really reflecting what worked, what didn't, and also resting. The luteal and the menstrual phase is a lot more about rest and introspection, personal work, and the follicular and the ovulatory phases are a lot more about going out there, connecting, doing the thing, acting.
Beautiful. I love that. So let's go ahead and cycle back around to the menstrual phase, the new moon or the winter part of the year, and talk a little bit more about that, because we've talked about that release that can happen, but there's some other pieces I feel like you have a lot of insight on around just kind of finding our balance during this time of year. I think a lot of us experience seasonal depression during this time of year. It's Q4 when we're talking about kind of the business world and the financial world. And it's that time where we're wrapping things up for the year. We're looking at what our income that we brought in this year, and it can bring up a lot for us. And we're also kind of thinking, okay, what is my plan for the year to come?
Yes.
And I know that can be a lot on the body, on the nervous system, on our hormonal system, things like that. And so what are some insights that you can give us around this time of year?
Yes, I love that. So I love what we were saying about you can think of winter as the menstrual phase of the seasons. So all of the practices that we might incorporate into our actual menstrual phase, we want to amp those up even more in the winter. And we can do them really wherever we are in our cycle or whether we're cycling or not. So these things on a physical level might include really keeping the body warm. So important, especially if you live in a place with a colder climate. And this is really important for cyclical and womb health as well. So we're going to be focusing on foods that are warm and cooked. We're going to be focusing on herbs that are warming. We're going to be, bringing in the vibe of like the coziness and wrapping ourselves up, keeping our womb wrapped, keeping nice warm socks on can really, really support us in our cyclical and hormonal health, especially if you're a person that experiences cramps or stagnation in the womb. Also a great thing to think about if you feel that you're experiencing spiritual or emotional stagnation in the womb, consider doing some things that are going to bring warmth to the womb, like massages, a warm shower or bath, bringing a hot water bottle or compress. And again, this doesn't have to be in your menstrual phase. This is something that you can bring into your winter season more regularly, especially if you're trying to move some stuck energy. Mm-hmm. So if you're reflecting on your business and you're thinking that, there's some things that are feeling stagnant, things that are feeling stuck, you want to move some energy, bring that into your womb space practice. Some other things for the winter time, especially on a physiological level, we really want to be focusing on our immunity and remembering that immunity impacts our hormonal and cyclical health. So anything that we can do to calm our nervous system, we're really thinking about our coping techniques, our calming techniques, even if those are really, really simple practices like maybe breath work or even a 5-minute meditation, bringing more of those calming techniques into our daily routines can have a huge impact on the way that we feel throughout the winter, especially when it comes to things like seasonal depression, and definitely during the holiday season, which can be stressful. Things with families, gatherings, even just all of the bugs that might be around, finding lots of ways to nurture your immune system and to nurture your nervous system really is going to be really impactful for us during this time.
Absolutely. And I love that because it really does take it back to this is how you create a sustainable business. You have to be able to have a sustainable lifestyle.
Yes.
And I think that that's like, we have so many coaches and everyone out there that we don't really talk about that. We talk about, hustling and going hard and pushing yourself to your limits. But I love this reframe because it's like, okay, if in this season of your business, you are able to tend to your hormone health, your immune system, your body, and go hard, and find that balance between the two, you're going to be able to keep showing up for it year after year after year.
Yes, absolutely. And then, when we come into the cyclical nature, we are able to create a life that we can thrive in and we can avoid burnout, because so many of us business owners have experienced that. We have a bout of inspiration and action and we're just going, but then we drop and we burn out, and it can be really hard to pick yourself back up from that experience of burnout. So if we already have this extra rest and self-care and really clear boundaries with ourselves is a big thing as well. Then we are just going to encourage our bodies to be able to work optimally, encourage our cycles to be as healthy as possible so that we're not falling into burnout as business owners or having cyclical and hormonal disturbances come up, which can also dramatically impact the way we show up for our business as well.
Right, absolutely. And I feel like that's a really good segue to talk a little bit about the class that you have, the Hormones, Holidays, and Family Time class. And I would love for you to share that with our audience to kind of just let them know about a resource that they can access that can help them during this time of year. So yeah, I would love to hear more about that.
Yes, thank you so much. So I created this class for you, and I know how tricky this time of year can be around the holiday seasons, and I know it can be particularly tricky if you are trying to implement a lot of new hormonal health techniques into your life. So maybe you are really on it with your nutrition for the cycle, and you are finding ways to rest and make sure that you're caring for yourself, and you're having really clear boundaries with yourself. And then all of a sudden you're with your whole family, and it feels a lot harder to meet some of those goals that you are setting for yourself. So Hormones, Holidays, and Family Time, we explore all of this. We talk about preventative methods for taking care of our immune system, our cyclical health, as well as our mental health this time of year. And then we also talk about some little hacks that you can implement if you do happen to get out of balance, or if you happen to eat like a piece too much of pumpkin pie and you start feeling like you're gonna go into a carb coma, or if you just ate way too many cookies at the holiday party. There's really healthy ways that we can make sure that we are taking care of our hormones that absolutely don't include self-shame. There are really simple things that we can do to make sure that we're keeping our blood sugar stabilized and we are bolstering our immune system so that we can continue to both indulge and take care of our hormones and our cycles. So that's what the class is all about.
Beautiful. And Laura has gifted you all a beautiful surprise. You will actually get access to this class for 50% off. So stay tuned, check out your email, and there will be a link to the class as well as that 50% off coupon that you can use. And I would just say, yes, it's the holidays and we are getting gifts for other people. This is a really powerful gift that you can give, especially if you have other friends who are entrepreneurs or just people who are looking to find that balance in their hormones and in their life and align to a more rhythmic and cyclical way of living. Why not share this gift with someone that you love? Get it for 50% off. We all love a good deal. And we all want to be healthy and be able to thrive and really show up, because at the end of the day, your business isn't just about making money, it's about changing lives, and you've got to start from the inside and work your way out.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Laura, for being here. Before we close out, I would just like to ask you if you could share one business growth tip that we can all carry into 2023, what would that be?
So the tip I'm going to share is a way that we can align our business practices with our cycles. And this is something that you've supported me with that has been so helpful for me. And that is to batch your content creation when you are in your follicular and ovulatory phases. So this is when we generally have more energy. We might be feeling very creatively inspired. We might just be more in of a get shit done kind of energy. So go ahead and batch as much content as you can. Create your graphics, create the written content, create your reels or TikToks or whatever it is that you're doing, and do as many of them as you can during your follicular and ovulatory phases. So when you're in your luteal and menstrual phase and you're feeling more chill and you want to rest and be in a different energy, you already have this content batched that you can then just leak out there in whatever way that you want to. And yeah, that's my main tip, and that's a great way to stay in that cyclical flow with your content creation.
I love it. Batching is one of my favorite things ever, and just having something that you can pull from in those phases when you are just not trying to show up in the same way,
right?
Completely game changing. So thank you. That's an amazing tip. Take that tip, use it in 2023. We're so excited to watch you grow your businesses, and thank you so much for tuning in to day 1 of the 12 Days of Christmas Business Growth Advent Calendar. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, CJ. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.